Hey, Nathaniel,
Yes.
I clicked the link that's on the calendar from the ham site homepage. It's
Mhm.
not, it's different from the link we're using right now for the 4 o'clock for
Okay.
this meeting.
I can look into that.
Okay,
Hey, Gary,
Yeah, Ron.
as you're starting the meeting, I just wanted to throw out, when I was at Visalia last weekend, we had a very good attendance, but of course, this is a group of contesters and DXers, but there was a lot of interest into the Eclipse party. And I won't go past that. You've got a full agenda, but a lot of interest and a lot of questions about it. So I was pleased to see that.
Great. Okay, that's good to hear. I like to hear good news like that. Welcome to Joseph and Brian. And one point I wanted to make to you guys is Nathaniel mentioned there are 750,000 roughly hams around the world, people with licenses issued by their governments. And we've got roughly 750, about 800 members of Hamside. So about 1 out of every 1,000 hams is a member of Hamside. And I think that's quite an accomplishment too, that Dr. Purcell has put it's a real feather in his cap from the last 5 years too. So, all right, let's take a quick look at the agenda, figure out where we want to go today. I've got a lot of stuff open on my desktop, a lot of things I want to cover today. So let's get this out of the way. Talk a little bit about Xenia, because it's one of those deadlines that's coming up. It's not going to move. I would like spending some time on the time delay of arrival event, because I put up the page to we can direct people to and collect pre-registration information, and I want to announce that on the one of the Hamside servers, one or more, and I want to make sure I've got that right before we do that. And we've got a lot of PR topics too, because we got a lot of work going on to advertise what we're doing with the eclipse coming up, the 2 eclipses coming up. So let me, if we could, if you want, let me jump over to let's see, to the booth posters here. Let's see, keynote. Just a review from last week, I threw out an idea and the group accepted that we print at least 3 posters, 3 by 4 feet, and be able to hang them in the booth at Dayton. So as we talk to people who are coming to the booth, or we ask people to come visit our booth, we've all got some kind of reference information we can point to and kind of put out a consistent story. So I think the first one and one that'll definitely be an attention grabber is about our festivals of eclipse ionospheric science. So I grabbed a copy of the eclipse maps off the web. I don't know if you can see it with the Zoom bar here, but I've given credit to greatamericaneclipse.com at the bottom. And it's basically just saying, hey, hams, shortwave enthusiasts, be on the air with us. The SEQP, our Gladstone Challenge, and the new time delay of arrival experiment, which has recently been defined. So the click links to the website and of course the QR code. So I think this one is fairly straightforward.
So Gary, did you know that that map was the astronomy picture of the day a week or so ago?
Oh, nice. Okay, good. Well, I guess we're grabbing something good then. I hope that means. Okay, any questions or comments on this one? Otherwise, we'll send it off to print more or less. Okay, figured that would be the easy one. The second one I would like some input on, because this is what I call the science slide. What we're, why we're doing what we're doing. Getting on the radio and making QSOs and doing all these other things is a lot of fun, but there's obviously a pretty significant reason behind the whole thing. So I wanted to ask, suggest to people that they operate during the eclipses, but to join us in meeting our scientific research objectives. Number 1, gain a better understanding of the Earth's ionospheric dynamics. 2, and I spent a lot of time wordsmithing this, search for causes of HF radio wave propagation phenomena, such as gray line effects. I thought this would click with the ham radio operators who've heard about things like gray line and obviously are interested in propagation. And then 3, improve the scientific / numeric, or maybe numerical models of the ionosphere. Those to me seem like 3 of the big things that that the amateur data we're going to generate can help us with. Any comments on those bullets?
Can you read the last one again?
Improve the scientific / numeric models of the ionosphere.
Are we supposed to be seeing a poster right now?
Oh, we're not?
No.
No.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
wonder why not.
Gary was just testing our memory to see if we could remember everything he said. And it sounds like some of us may not have passed.
Yeah, first I thought
How's
you were
that?
just reading things
There
to
we
us.
go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there will be a
Right.
quiz later in the program.
We were Imagineering, so.
Yeah, just like Disney. Just don't tell Ron DeSantis. We'll be all right.
Yeah, right. Non-political, right?
Yeah, man.
You know, Gary, with this group, you just can't miss anything.
I think that looks good.
Yeah, not too much detail, but just enough to give them the hook and pull them in, I figured, so.
Yeah. Do you want to, I mean, you have the figure of the ionosphere on here, but you don't have anything that shows an eclipse.
Let me go back to the first one. Maybe that was part of the problem because you guys didn't see it. Let me ask you guys if this one is showing up on a screen share.
Not yet.
Okay,
I
Sun
think
will
it
come
shares
out
one
tomorrow.
window at a time.
let me do a new share then. How about that one?
I got it.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Much better. So anyhow, so yeah, I had one poster with the eclipse and talking about our events. And you saw the one about the science, and there'll be a third one about the grape in a minute.
Great. Okay.
Okay, so let me close this one. I got too many things open probably here.
So I still think the other one, is talking about the eclipse, and you don't have any figures about the eclipse on there.
Oh, in other words, an image of the eclipse, like,
So something that ties in the eclipse, because you got the day, night, and the gray line. Because the title of the second poster was, it had the word eclipses in there in the title, but then there were no images about eclipses. It was just day, night, ionosphere.
okay, so perhaps in this right hand, we can just show an image of an annular eclipse or total eclipse, just the image of the sun here or something.
Yeah.
There's certainly plenty of those around, so, okay. Shrink that down and put the sun over here. An eclipsed sun. Okay, okay, let me do that later. That one. And the third one.
Yeah, looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are we seeing the PSWS one?
Yes.
So we talked about this with the case group this morning, where receive sites are encouraged to operate 24/7 and especially during the solar eclipse events. Get that point across. What we're doing, plots they can develop the Doppler and the signal strength plots, how to build one yourself, and then we updated the system cost this morning. So this will hopefully attract the DIY crowd.
That looks good.
Okay, so those are the 3. So we'll call that done. Wow, I got to work on
Now,
the stuff. But we'll call
one
that-
thing, I did update the website so that if you just go to /grape, that also takes you to /grape1. I don't know if we just want to use just /grape and then that's the main landing page, and then eventually there'll be a grape 1 and a grape 2 page, but
Okay, I'll take a look at that. Yeah, because yeah, I got to look at the document Rachel put up there this morning too. Yeah, I guess the first thing we should do at land at that page is explain the various flavors of the grape. So, and then we can take people off to those other individual pages.
right. And I think Rachel had a section in her document about that. It was like which grape is right for you.
Right, okay. All right, let me close this thing up.
Gary,
Yes,
the slides that you just shown, are you gonna add them to the sign up page that you have?
well, I'm
Just-
not sure, Gary, because these things there's a lot of detail on them. They're meant to be printed out at 3 feet by 4 feet. And when they kind of shrink down and appear on a web page, they kind of get lost a little bit.
Uh,
Um,
I didn't know if you could have a PDF format or something like that. They could print out and have a reference at they sign up, and something they could print out at home and have a reference to. Because it's a good, they're good.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that. Let me give that some consideration, because the other thing I was thinking about myself is printing them out locally here at like 12 by 18 inches and have them mounted to a piece of foam core, so they can be laying on the table in the booth. And even though they're behind us, but that way, if you were talking to somebody, you could pick it up from the table and point to it. And who knows? So yeah, there's a couple of different places we can use those. Thanks. Okay. All right. The other thing I wanted to look at, let me just do a screen share here. I got to renew my Zoom driver's license, I think, here. Hopefully we're seeing Safari.
Yep.
Okay, this is where I'd like to spend a little bit of time. I've gone over this, our time delay of arrival event with, of course, with Steve Serwin, and he's been a lot of help. But it's nice to get another set of eyes in this whole thing. So the idea is, you know, back in our main Eclipse page, we've got links to the contesting events. And then I've also got a link that'll bring people here if they're interested. Well, let's take a look at that. Let's just go there first. So people can, you know, the ham site, our contest, essentially our competitions, the link to the contest info page, and then what I'm calling our research events, which we have one right now, is our time delay of arrival event. So looking at the
Great.
TDOA page,
Can you go back to that for 1 second?
sure.
I like how you have it split up by bands there. And this is also really good because this coming Wednesday, I'm going to be giving a talk at the local club here about how to get involved. So I'm going to be going to this website and using all of this to build my talk. This is really good.
Good, good. Glad it'll be helpful.
Yeah, I like the idea of how you have contests and then research events. I think that's a good way to kind of differentiate.
Yeah, they certainly are slightly different audiences, so I thought that would help.
Yeah.
Are you going to tape that event, Nathaniel?
Take what event?
When you speak to the
Am I
club?
gonna tape it?
Yeah.
I don't, I'm not sure. I'm not worried about that. This is kind of my dry run I'm gonna be giving this talk like 3 or 4 times at Dayton.
Yep.
So I'll be giving a version of it at Contest University, which probably will be recorded. I'm sure that will be recorded.
Yeah,
be
and I
giving
think
a
that could be a
version
good
of it.
template for others, okay, in terms of picking it up,
Yeah,
so we're all on the
So,
same page.
yeah. I can try to record it. We can see about that. But if I don't get it recorded there, it'll be the same sort of thing at Dayton. and
Yeah,
I'll
for
be doing
Dayton,
it
that's
3 or
fine.
4
Yep,
times
mhm.
there, so.
Okay,
This is just my dry, this is my dry run practice. Okay, yeah, that looks really, and then planned events to be announced at a later time. Okay. Tracking atmosphere. Okay, yeah, that looks really good. So the ones that you have, as the first 2, we actually have links on how they work. And the
Right, because
third
we can go
one-
right to the contest info page there and get all the details.
Okay,
Whoop.
great.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so
somebody
TDOA.
followed the, yep, I knew
Time of
of that.
arrival event.
So I kind of wanted to jump right into the science on this one, and I just, at this point, measured, or mentioned the October annular eclipse, because we got to make sure this works and we get good data from it, so on and so forth, and if we do, we'll obviously update this thing for April. So the eclipse offers unique opportunity to study an eclipse's influence on ionospheric dynamics, particularly on the layers of the ionosphere which are responsible for the propagation of radio waves in the HF 3 to 30 megahertz band. The science questions pertinent to this event, and I pulled this out of Steve's paper. What is the observed change in effective F2 ionization layer height caused by the momentary blockage of solar radiation? And second, is symmetry observed in layer height changes when comparing before eclipse and after eclipse layer heights? I gotta say, I spent about an hour on that sentence because I had a lot of tough time with it, but I think hopefully it makes sense to people who are familiar with this process anyhow.
Is symmetry observed in layer height changes when comparing? I think that sounds good to me.
Okay, good.
It takes a long time to wordsmith this stuff, doesn't it?
Yep, because you obviously want to put yourself in the shoes of the first time reader, and I think that seems to be the key for me anyhow.
And you also want to make sure that it's accurate. Which is, so those two things are very difficult.
So if we got them interested in what our questions are, I figure we go right into the methodology. Over propagation path to support transmission of multiple hops, test waveforms can be used to measure HF signals time difference arrival between multipath modes. For this event, it is the 1 and 2 hop modes from the F2 layer that are of interest. So again, this was pulled out of Steve's paper, and I had a little heartburn when he talked, maybe I'm misunderstanding things, when he talked about multipath modes and also 1 and 2 hop modes. Are those one and the same thing, or is that the same way of saying the same thing twice?
No, they're two different. They could be two different things. You could have a multipath mode that is, one of them could be going off of the E layer and one of them could be going off of the F layer, and they're both going to the same station. And that would be a case of 1 hop, but you're still getting multipath. And then you could have a case where you are doing, 1 hop and 2 hops going to the same place. And that's also an example of multipath. So I guess all 1, 2, 3 hop modes, those are all examples of multipath, but not all multipath has to be, multiple hops.
Okay, that's clear to me. So maybe this was said correctly, that we're interested in multipath, and specifically of the types of multipath, this is what we're after, the 1 and 2 hop mode. So Steve probably had it right, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yes, and then that second sentence also limits it, because he's saying we're not worried about 3 hop modes or 4 hops, and we're only interested in the ones off the F2 layer, not off of the E layer and stuff.
So good. That narrows down the scope. That's good. And then, of course, the reasons we're looking at those particular modes. Steve gave these 3 reasons. F2 layer height is most sensitive to sunlight variations. Simultaneous propagation of both modes frequently occurs on frequencies below 10 megahertz. And TDOA information can be used to infer F2 layer height.
Yeah, that sounds excellent.
Okay, good. Like I said, I was right out of Steve's paper. So, and then I want to describe the test waveforms consist of short pulses plus an audio chirp. And maybe I took a little poetic license here. I said they're reasonably simple to generate, transmit, receive, and analyze by amateur radio operators. The first 3 are definitely true. The analysis maybe not so easy, but I think the generation, transmission, and reception are. A full explanation, theory, methods, on-air validation of the technique is on Steve's paper. Let's see, where'd that go? Nathaniel, you've seen this, the rest of the group probably hasn't, but here's an excellent explanation of what Steve has done in the past and what we'll be doing for this experiment.
Yeah, Steve does a really nice job.
Sure does. So all kinds of detail here that I didn't want to put into the necessarily place on the front of the web page, but it's right there in front of everybody. So
Yes.
and this is
Yeah.
in a PDF and it's easy for people to read it, print out and read.
I would only add variable frequency in front of audio chirp. So a variable frequency audio chirp, just so it's a little clearer what a chirp is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's right there. Okay, let's see. Okay, so noted. TDOA page. Great, thanks. And the last, and I originally had a separate section on here with references back to some of the other links here on the site, but Steve's page has a lot of good references. So I just said the last page of the document has a lot of references. So, and they're pretty good. So people can dig in a little deeper. Then I came to the ask in red. HAMSI is actively recruiting dozens of stations capable of transmitting, receiving, and recording wave files on 40, 75, and 160 meters using sideband signals during the eclipse. We're looking to have pairs of stations operating across North America. Pairs will be located such that stations may be on opposite sides of the eclipse path, parallel to the eclipse path, or perhaps both at some distance from the eclipse path. Small groups who wish to operate roundtable style are also welcome. If you're interested in participating, please complete the pre-registration form below. And if you have questions, I just put the HAMSI address in there because I haven't asked Steve if he would want me to put his email or we'll just get questions.
Yeah,
in
well,
the
you can use
HAMSI.
that one. I will get you access to that HAMSI address so you can
That's
monitor that inbox.
Okay,
It's very low traffic right now.
okay,
But
that's fine. So that's our ask. It's a big ask, but there it is. And then the general methodology, which Steve has reviewed in the past for me too. Stations will work in pairs or small groups. Establish a QSO between at least 2 members. Others can listen, recording the audio, or they may choose to transmit their own signals, such as in a roundtable QSO. Chirp waveform will be transmitted from one station to another multiple times during the eclipse period. Use enough power to maintain a good signal. It's a couple of different options. One station does the chirp transmitting, the other is receiving and recording. Even better would be to alternate. Station A transmits, then B receives. Then B transmits and A receives. So we'll get bi-directional data, I guess you'd call it. But I also want to be clear that multiple transmit receive sessions are needed throughout the eclipse period. It's not a case of once and done. Stations should be prepared to transmit a chirp signal every 6 to 10 minutes over 2 or more hours for at least an hour prior to maximum annularity near your QTH and for at least an hour after. And this was Steve's request, how we wanted to time this.
Great.
And how to save the receive files and help us with the analysis because that's a big part of it. And we'll gladly teach you how. I haven't figured out how we'll do that yet, but if people want to
Yeah.
learn, we can always teach.
I'm still curious about how we're gonna get everyone to do that too, but it's something I do think that's important.
Some preparation, please pre-register. Obviously, make sure you can transmit and receive WAV files. I just mentioned that the sound card interface will work. Some radios have sound over USB. A couple examples there. And here's where it gets to be fun. For the transmitting station, I've got Christina Collins's GitHub site, which creates the sample chirp audio file with embedded call sign and embedded grid location. So somebody's going to have to be able to get to the GitHub site, run binder, and run the Jupyter code and save the file. I didn't find it that difficult. I've done it, fooled around with Jupyter before maybe, but hopefully people can work their way through this. But I've also got a sample audio file too, so people know what they're looking for. And I've got a sample screen, what it's supposed to, what the first initial screen looks like in Binder, where you're supposed to put in your call sign and your grid square. So, because if everybody if everybody creates a file with W8EDU and EN91EM, we're going to be in trouble. So hopefully
Yeah.
people will read.
I wonder if we should have Christina update the notebook to leave those blank or comment it out or something, but something that will force people to actually change the thing in order to generate a valid waveform. Because right now, if you run it, it will work, which is great, but maybe we actually want it to break by default so people are forced to realize they have to do something.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't even thought about that until as you were saying that. It makes a lot of sense.
There's
Make
also
it
like
easier
a
to-
Python there's also a Python input command, so you can have them run it and they'll ask like, enter your, do you want to enter your please enter your call sign or something like that. But maybe just
Actually, I'll
having it.
yeah, I think
It's
Christina and Aiden collaborated on this code, so I'll send that off to both of them.
Yeah, somehow have it break or not work unless people actively put in the correct information.
Good point. Okay. When that's done, I can update this. That's fine. Close that. Now for receiving stations, make sure you've got a directory on your computer for storing the WAV files, which we will later ask you to upload to a data repository. Plan your Eclipse operating, make sure you know where the Eclipse is at when it's coming nearby. The first time I ran that, I think Christina dropped me into the WWVH science group. It hasn't been very active, so I'm not sure if this is a good suggestion or not, but
Yeah. That maybe that Google group isn't super active, but I do know I was at one of their telecons this week and their telecon group is active.
all right, I'll take a look in there because I know we've got at least a half a dozen groups one way or another involved with our project. So yeah, I guess it can get spread too thin, I suppose. But I mean, that one would work, but there may be a better one. I don't know if anyone's heard the chirp signal. I would like to play it, but I've never tried to play an audio signal over Zoom, and I don't know if it's worth going through that aggravation or not.
It shouldn't be too hard to do. Do you have the signal there?
Let's see.
When
There it
you're
is.
sharing your, yeah, when you're sharing your screen, if you click on the share options, you can share your sound as well.
Okay, let's see here. Your screen sharing, and it tells me what screen. Are you guys seeing the black screen with the audio?
Yeah,
We're hearing that, we're seeing it, but we're not hearing it. You have to click a particular
there-
box before you share it.
Right.
When
There
you
is
select
there is
screen
also a way that you can click on one of the drag down menus and hit share screen after you've shared it, but it is easier if you just stop sharing and then reshare and then make sure you click the box that says share sound.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop share. I'll share screen. Look
And then there
for
should
that.
be a box in, do you see a box in the lower left that said share sound?
No, unfortunately not.
Stop sharing again. Now hit share, but don't hit the second share button yet, just hit share once. And then there should be a little checkbox in the lower left hand
Oh.
corner.
Okay, share sound. Now I can pick the screen.
There you go.
Share.
I like it.
Can't you put the spring noise at the very end too? That'd be just great. Boing, oing, oing.
That
Or
needs
a
some
car
band
crash.
limiting though. That has some serious key clicks.
Sorry, I spent too many years in broadcasting with sound effects records.
Oh, I like it. It not only does it get the information, but it sounds something like out of a 1950s B grade sci-fi movie.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Was-
really good. It really is.
David McGaw's comment about the key clicks.
Yeah, that needs some band limiting. That's has some serious key clicks which are out of band.
You're saying in the CW portion,
Yeah,
Dave?
I mean, if you feed it in as an audio signal to a ham transceiver, it should filter that appropriately before it goes in, right?
It will. It
Good.
will wind up with whatever passband characteristics of the speech channel are present.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be a good experiment to see what that does to the chirp and maybe come up with a pre-distorted chirp that gives us a better chirp on the other end. And furthermore, you'll get the same the same modification of the signal characteristics by the received filters on the other end. So we might want to recommend using the widest possible filters.
We can also, you know, Christina generated that in Python. We can bandpass filter in Python with an appropriate filter before we generate the wave file. This is actually one of the things my students have to do in their communication systems class for a
Okay.
project.
Okay.
But you know, we can define the filter characteristics before the wave file is created and then generate the wave file that way so that we don't rely on the whatever the person's radio's filters are. It probably makes sense for us to make sure that our wave file is bandpass limited to like, I don't know, 2,500 hertz or something.
FACTORYVILLEPE.
Yeah, I would also counsel people to turn off their EQ, any transmit EQ equalization that they have on the
Yeah.
on the speech channel. It should be flat, flat as can be.
Flat as a
Yeah,
pancake.
good point.
Wait, is that why Butterworth filters are Butterworth filters? Because they're maximally flat filters, right?
In the passband, yeah, minimal ripple, right?
Right. Right, minimal ripple. So they're flat as a pancake.
Yeah, well,
So you put
vessels are
butter on
also
Well, minimum
You put
truth.
butter.
flat as a
on
panc.
Sorry. Sorry, I'll go away now.
That was a sweet one.
Well, What you guys did know, it's the
Buttermilk
maple syrup
filters.
in Cleveland, so.
There used to be a math package called Maple, so
I've used that. Design your Butterworth filters in maple.
Maple, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we could work up an acronym for syrup in there somewhere.
I'm sure we can.
Mrs. Butterworth.
Yes.
Okay, that's a couple of points I can take back to Christine, Aiden, and Steve regarding the Jupyter code. That's very good. Let me go back to the website, continue going through that. Okay, are you guys seeing my, oh, sorry about that.
Groovy.
I was looking at my screen at the test runs, I hope. One of the things I wanted to suggest is that strongly that people involved in this do a test run, say a month or so before the actual eclipse. So I just proposed a date and a time just as a placeholder. So because on the day of the eclipse, if something doesn't work, the eclipse isn't going to wait for us. So
Nope.
I didn't say too much about reporting results, other than we, as a community, we use public databases to store what's been collected. They allow for open access and long-term, many years worth of storage. Once we figure that out, we'll put the details here.
Yeah, we should probably have some sort of data rules of the road or, acknowledgement or something that if you participate in this, we're going to use your data. You agree to, release your data into the public domain or something like that.
Yep. Yeah, general release. Yep. Mhm.
Okay, makes sense. Hope we don't need any ham side lawyers, that's all. Just one out there. Okay, I'll think about that. I guess I try to use my sense of humor here. Scoring and post-event recognition. I said, unlike the other events held during the FOEIS, the TDOA event is not a competition. I said that all participants will be acknowledged by listings on the HamSci website. There's a possibility that one or more participating stations will receive mention in future studies, presentations, and research papers. Regardless, everyone will earn the gratitude of the atmospheric science community. Only through experimentation, data gathering, rigorous analysis, and sharing of results can we make progress toward understanding the physical world in which we live and operate our stations. So no plaques, maybe a certificate, but no plaques.
Sounds good.
And then a pretty simple pre-registration form. Just collect everyone's email, call sign, if available, names, transmit, receive, or either, pick a band. Where are you? Your grid square, description of your station. And, some people are going to want to pair up with a buddy or two or three or four, and that's fine. Just option, yeah, I guess it is a required field. If you'd like to be paired up with other stations, blah, 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 that stuff here. And of course, this all goes into a Google sheet that's up on the web that we'll be collecting all this stuff in. So that's where she stands.
That looks fantastic. Does,
So it sounds like I should probably get a hold of Aiden and Christina and Steve before we blast this thing out to the world and talk about improving the audio generation, because people may jump in there and try and do it, and then it may not be optimal.
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, what I'll tell them is we want to do it in the next 2 or 3 weeks, because we want this thing ready for Dayton. That's or for Xenia or whatever you want to call it, because that's where I want it to be up and running. So we got a little time. Okay, that was pretty helpful. Ed, you want to talk about your pitch letter? I can throw that
Yeah.
up on the screen.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Put it up now for something completely different, as they say.
Yes.
So yeah, this is part of the, I guess, the media campaign in terms of getting us off the ground for October. This is a pitch letter that we're going to be sending primarily to television stations, but also some major radio stations that are along the path of totality. And I'm in the process of building that list right now. It's actually not that difficult. The one for April will be a little bit more difficult because there's more DMAs and more stations along the path in the spring than there is right now. And but this is basically the pitch letter that'll go to news directors and editors in terms of utilizing our speakers bureau, okay, getting you on the air, okay, in terms of talking about what we're doing. So this is a first cut of this. Just basically, I'll read it, read it for you here. October 14th, 2023 will bring one of the most exciting of celestial events, an annular solar eclipse. This event will be followed widely by your viewers/listeners, not only on Eclipse Day, but in the days leading up to the event. You'll be fortunate to be in the path of this rare occurrence, and I'd like to bring to your attention activity out of sight of what astronomers will be viewing, but no less equally important. HamSci is an organization of volunteer citizen scientists and professional researchers who study upper atmospheric and space physics. They will be intensely studying the effects of the eclipse on the ionosphere, a layer of the Earth's atmosphere that contains a high concentration of ions and free electrons and is able to reflect radio waves around the Earth. The ionospheric changes that occur during an eclipse provide a unique laboratory for study, much like the observations of the sun's corona visible to Earth-based telescopes. Scientists comprised of physicists, engineers, and mathematicians will be active participants. Hundreds of amateur radio operators / hams will also play a vital role by populating the ionosphere with radio signals before, during, and after the event. Many hams in your area will be participating. While astronomers will certainly be a key topic of focus on October 14th, atmospheric science such as this is no less important and an interesting addition to your eclipse coverage. We believe that your viewers / listeners will appreciate the story provided by HamSci and how it can help them better understand the science around this once-in-a-lifetime event. I'm always ready to provide more detailed information on our work during the eclipse and HamSci itself. Let me know how we can best aid your storytelling and coverage of the eclipse. And this will be signed by the public information officer or somebody that we designate in terms of doing the outreach, in terms of doing placement. So that's a first draft. Again, and it's targeted to news directors and editors in the markets, the DMAs along the path of the annular eclipse. So that's where we are. We're in a first draft. So.
It also suggests that the copy be directed towards the meteorologist. Because a lot
Sure,
of
as well as
news,
two.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, a
Yep.
lot of news
That's a good
directors
point.
will read that and they'll go right over
Yep.
their head.
Yep. So no, it's good. Yeah, and that's a good addition. So and hopefully in a lot of cases we'll have the direct email for meteorologists in those markets. So
I think this
The
looks
only-
great.
The
Comment?
only very minor suggestion I might
Sure.
make, and it's very, very minor. In the paragraph beginning scientists comprised,
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. The next sentence, hundreds, I would propose that it be hundreds of licensed amateur radio operators and that those 4 words, licensed amateur radio operators, the first letter be capitalized. That will emphasize that, it'll bring a little emphasis to whoever's reading this.
Okay, done. Done. Other comments?
I think you're missing a quote before hams.
Yeah,
Either have not enough quotes before hams or too many at the end.
I think it's at the beginning. It's a single quote, should be a double quote.
Yeah.
Okay,
Typo.
hey,
No
I'm
problem.
coming to that.
And then
Yep,
you need-
typos are my middle name, so. go ahead.
Amateur
you need it.
radio
I think
is-
you want, yeah.
Amateur radio is not capitalized.
Oh.
It's not capitalized by the FCC or,
No.
it occasionally gets
No,
capitalized.
I have a style, so it's usually lowercase, so.
I
Anyway,
think you might
so-
be missing an extra carriage return between the first paragraph and the second paragraph.
Yeah, I caught that. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
right there. Yeah, exactly. Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
I think this looks great.
yep. So, yeah, we'll be ready to go. The timing will be after Labor Day. So it's not too close to the event, but it's obviously, putting it on news directors' radars. So,
Mhm.
Right.
good. Okay, and again, I'm working on that list. The other piece, just to keep everybody up to speed, is that we mentioned at the tail end of last week's meeting is as purchasing a list of podcasters and bloggers, which are a little bit harder to come by. And we made that purchase. And actually, Nathaniel, I got the list around 2:30 today, but I haven't had a
great.
chance to look at it. So yes, they fulfill the obligation. Actually, it looks like they provided a lot of detail, on the
Oh, good.
podcasters and bloggers themselves. So that'll be a list that we can leverage across both activities. So
Would you mind emailing me a copy of that list? too?
sure, absolutely. Yep,
Thank you.
yep, you got it. So, and we found a new vendor that can work with us too. So all good.
That's great.
I talked with, this is John KA4RXP. I talked with a fellow named W1TED, who was mentioned in Ward Silver's post about was on the ARL website.
Yep.
And he's supposedly studying the issue and wants to get more involved with it. I gave him Nathaniel and Gary's information as to how to contact him. And he may or may not follow up with it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's getting talking heads with those guys may actually help.
Yep. Yeah. And obviously, that's really a good point because, we're going to need people who can represent us as we get closer. So, because if I can get placements, obviously you don't want to turn anybody down. So hopefully we can have some bench strength in terms of getting people on the air if we need to. So when we need to. That's all I have.
Nice. Yeah, it's a lot. It's going to be very, very helpful. Okay. The only other thing I wanted to bring up is Mackenzie and I are working a little bit on the Discord piece of this, the social media stuff. And I don't know if anybody else is familiar with Discord or not, but one of the interesting features is when you create what's called a server, which is a group, you could call it a listserv, you could call it a community, whatever you want. Their term is server, quite a different than the typical meaning of word server. But you set up channels on this server, and one of the channels are the rules for participation. The thought being that anyone who wants to join that server has to go and read these rules, be familiar with them before and accept them before they join. I guess the idea is then if you have to moderate someone, or if they get really crazy and have to kick them off, you can say, look, this was in the rules, you violated the rules, you're gone. So that's a fairly civil way of doing the whole thing. And I thought I'd throw the rules up on the screen that I proposed to Mackenzie real quick, just so everybody can get a flavor of what these are. It's kind of interesting because I learned something doing this.
Gary, you do know that we do have a set of Hamside community participation guidelines already established, right?
You better believe it. Yep.
Excellent.
Let's see here. Yes, in fact, I definitely
You're on
leverage
top.
those.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, I can't zoom into this anymore, unfortunately. But anyhow, many of these rules are very common from from server to server. So these aren't all necessarily new for us. You know, be respectful, civil, and welcoming. Treat others the way you want to be treated. I kind of live by the golden rule, so that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Discord has a set of community guidelines. You know how to properly act on their system. And then the third thing I put was the ham site community guidelines.
I like
put
how
a
they
note
have
to
it just.
servers-
I like how they have it, discordapp.com/guidelines. Maybe we should do the same sort of thing too, just go hamsite.org/guidelines.
Take a look at that.
I can add that in really quickly.
Yeah, you do that as a redirect. That's fine. I'll do that.
The amateur radio digital communications people just published their code of conduct.
Okay, that's probably worth a look. One of the rules I added, the servers for the benefit of the amateur ham radio, citizen science, and space physics communities. Irrelevant content may be moderated. You know, I mean, nobody cares if somebody sends somebody one message about, you know, what new car did you buy? But you don't want to get into something that's way off topic, and then you can at least hopefully rope them back in. A very common thing, no inappropriate, unsafe, or not suitable for work comments, content under any circumstances. Don't misuse or use the channels for spam. Do not share false or misleading information, parentheses, misinformation. Do not join the server to promote your content. Do not engage in activities that could damage or compromise the security of an account, network, or system. Again, those are fairly boilerplate. So Mackenzie hasn't had a chance to comment on those yet, but those are the suggestions I sent off to her a couple of days ago. So seems pretty straightforward.
That looks really good to me.
Yeah.
I just added the redirect, so you can now go to hamsite.org/guidelines and it will take you there.
Okay, I'll be able to fix that one. So that was a lot of content today. We got through a lot of different topics. That's good for me. Is there anything anybody else wants to bring up before we sign off?
You can, last thing, Gary, you can add yourself if you go to hamsite.org/people, if you want to create a title for a hamsite community coordinator, amateur radio community coordinator, and you can put your name there officially. And as we start creating more official names, we should add them there, especially if we have people who are public information officers, because then when people send these emails out, they want to go back to the website and verify that this is actually true. So that both gets you credit and it provides a verification. And then, maybe with things like the TDOA, people who've added significant content or are serving as leaders, they should get credit somehow. So, on the bottom, it could say something like, page by Steve Serwin and Gary McKeaton, or, something like that, or, team lead for this particular experiment lead, Steve Serwin, something like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Make sure that people are getting credit for the work they're doing, and make sure that, people who have questions, those questions get directed to the correct people.
Good, okay.
I think this is great. What do you guys think?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good too.
Yeah. Should be fun. Well, I think I have to run because I have to go to a quick ham radio club meeting, and then it's time to get Anthony for the night. So.
All right. Thanks everyone for your assistance, for support, and for your input today. A lot of good feedback.
Thank you, everybody.
Catch you later on down the log.
All right, take care.
7:30.
73.
Bye.
See you next week.